Hey everyone, I wanted to talk to you today about how to start a remote bookkeeping business. Now, this video could also be useful for you if you want to start some other type of remote business. I'm going to give you the steps of starting a business and getting customers and so on. But of course, because I have a remote bookkeeping business, that's where I have the most experience, and that's what I can talk about the most. So I'm just going to take you through the steps and you'll be able to get going with your own business. So basically, I didn't really intend to start a business when I first started looking for online jobs. I just wanted to work from home. It was back in 2015, and it was a little harder to find remote jobs back then, but they were still out there. There was still quite a bit out there, but the competition was so high. I was just applying to jobs on Indeed and a lot of other websites like that, and I wasn't having any luck. And part of that is because I had spent some years teaching, and it had been a while since I had been in an office doing accounting, so my resume was just a little stale. So I ended up having to get an in-office job part-time. I got a job at a local law office to kind of brush up my experience. But like I said, at the time I didn't really intend to start a business. But then I'd say 4 or 5, 6 months after I started that job, I realized that to be taken seriously and to kind of make this my career, doing bookkeeping from home, it'd probably be better if I started an official business. So that's what I did. My intention was to start a business and get multiple part-time clients to work on their bookkeeping from home over time. And that's what I successfully did. So I'm just going to walk you through the steps. Now, obviously, you're going to want to think of a business name first and a business structure, because what your business structure is going to be is going to affect how you file paperwork to get your business started. So the easiest form of business is to be a sole proprietorship. So I just decided to be a sole proprietor, not an LLC, not a corporation. I was not a partnership. And to me, it was just simple that way, and I wanted to keep it simple in the beginning. Later on, I did file to be an LLC years down the road, but in the beginning, I was just a sole proprietor. So I'm in North Carolina, and what I had to do was go to my county website, Register of Deeds, and download a form that was basically a doing business as form. And I had to make sure my business name was not used by anybody else in the county, which it was an easy search on the county website. And I had to fill out this form basically with the name of the business and, that sort of thing. And I don't remember if it had to be notarized or not. And then I took it downtown to the Register of Deeds office and filed it for a small fee. It was really easy. And I would say in your state, it might be a little different. If I had filed for an LLC, I would have had to also file paperwork with the North Carolina Secretary of State. But this is all I did for this business. And then I also had to pay $50 to get a privilege license through North Carolina. So keep that in mind as well. So your state may have something similar. It really wasn't that difficult for me to search for this information and do it myself. However, if you are just not sure or overwhelmed and you just don't want to do it by yourself, then I recommend finding a CPA or an attorney who can do this paperwork for you. Preferably an attorney, but I think some CPAs do this also. So get your paperwork filed, get whatever licenses filed that you need to file in your state, and then you're ready to go, ready to do business. And then also, if you think you're going to hire employees, then you may want to go ahead and get your EIN through the IRS. This is free. You just go on there, put in your information, and it's a pretty quick and easy process, and it should be on the IRS website. I went ahead and did this, and my reasoning behind doing this is when I was filing or when I was working for companies, I didn't want to give out my social security number. I would rather use an EIN. So I wanted to start with that. So I went ahead and did that, and then I did hire employees later. So I did that. So that was all my paperwork stuff, and I was ready to go. You'll need to check with your county or state And if you're in a different country, obviously it's going to possibly be completely different. But I would say just use the internet, look it up. Or if you know someone who has a business, maybe you can ask them what they did. And they might be able to help you. So filing your paperwork, that's number one. Number two would be to set up your website. Now, I did my own website. If you go to my website, you can probably tell that I did my own website. It's not super professional. Basically, I just created an account with GoDaddy, and I purchased something. It was a business builder feature. They also have WordPress. You can use either or. I think now my website is WordPress. And you just put in your information into templates, and it gives you a website. Now, this was a really tedious process. I did not like it. It took me a long time to get this website done, like several hours. But I'm glad I did it myself because I really didn't have the money at the time to pay someone, and my whole business has been built with no debt. I didn't want to go in debt to build a website, but you may feel differently, or you may have money to sink into your business. I really didn't, so I did my own website, and I don't think I spent more than $100 to $200 to set up the website, pay GoDaddy for the first year. I can't remember the exact cost, but it was very minimal. So you want to set up your website, put all the services you offer on there, put your contact information, phone number on there, and so on, and have it ready to go. So that would be step two, create your website. Now, step three is specific to accounting professionals. If you are going to do bookkeeping, you will need to have a QuickBooks Pro Advisor account, and this is free, and you can actually do your own internal accounting within that Pro Advisor account, and then you'll be able to log into multiple clients from that one login. So it's a really good tool to have. You're going to need it to be an accountant or do bookkeeping for clients, because most people use QuickBooks Online. You will have companies that use other softwares, but for the most part, QuickBooks is very common. So you're going to want to have that. And while you're there, you might as well go ahead and get the QuickBooks Online certification. It will give you, honestly, I had used QuickBooks before I got my QuickBooks account, but some of the features that it went over in that online certification were features that I didn't know about. So it was good that I went through the process and got the certification and learned some things that maybe I wouldn't have otherwise known about. So definitely set up that. That was step three. And then step four is going to be the hardest part for me, was finding customers. So you may already have some customers lined up. Just, depends on your situation. I did not. I was very much on my own trying to find customers. So I'm just going to tell you how I got my first few customers, and maybe that'll give you some ideas on how to get customers. So the first customer I had was the law office I worked for had a friend who was an attorney, and he needed some accounting done, but he had a laptop with QuickBooks Desktop on it that I could take home and do the work from home. So that was my first remote job. And then another job, my second client, it wasn't actually a work from home job, but it was my second client. I responded to an Indeed ad, and it was a local church who just needed someone to come in a couple hours, a couple days a week to do some accounting on QuickBooks Desktop. So it was a client, but it wasn't work from home, but it was still part-time, worked at my schedule, and so that was my second client. And then after that, I found that I got a lot of clients through something called Upwork, a website called Upwork. Basically, you set up a profile and you bid on jobs. And then sometimes people will contact you if they see your profile and think you might fit their job. There are some scams on there, so you do have to be careful, just regardless, anytime you're online, you have to be careful of that. But for the most part, it was legitimate jobs. You could look at, the nice thing about Upwork is you can look at a job and then click down on the person who's posting the job and see if they had any reviews from other workers. So to me, it was a good way to get clients without just getting random clients that I don't know anything about. I kind of had an idea already. So I really liked Upwork, and I put a lot of time into getting clients on Upwork. I really worked on my profile. I had a picture on my profile. When you're online, you want to have your picture on as much as possible on your email accounts, your profile accounts, anywhere that you are on the internet, you want to have your picture. And so I set up a profile with my picture, all my work experience was on there. And then just a tip, I looked at other people's profiles, other bookkeepers' profiles, to kind of get an idea of what other people's profiles look like, just to make sure that I was kind of in line with the people who were actually getting jobs. So not a bad idea to do so. And then another thing I did was I spent a lot of time looking up what other people were doing on their bids to get jobs. So I was watching videos, I was looking at blogs, and I was just basically looking up people's advice on how they did a good bid and how they were actually landing jobs. And I spent quite a bit of time doing that, and I was successful. I did start getting clients. And what happened was I got a few small clients on there, and then over time, it did take a few years, but over time, those initial clients started giving referrals, and I got other clients through them, and so on. So over time, it built into a full-time job. But in the beginning, it was really difficult to get those first, I'd say, handful of customers. But then once I got the momentum and started getting referrals, then it just went from there into basically a full-time job. So getting customers, networking, having an online presence. You could have a Facebook page. You could reply to job ads on places like Indeed. There's a lot of different ways to get customers. Of course, your website might draw in some customers. My website does draw in customers occasionally, but not a lot. You really have to, in the beginning, you really have to go out there and try to find customers and actively look for customers, depending on what type of business you have. So for accounting, I found that bidding on jobs where I knew people were looking for a bookkeeper was the best way for me to get started. So hopefully you'll be able to get a good way to find customers. And then step number 5 would be to go ahead and set up your office area in your house so you'll be ready to work. I went ahead and started setting things up right away. So I'm in the corner of a room, and I started using the computer I already owned, but I did purchase a second monitor so that I'd have 2 screens to work with. That makes accounting a lot easier. And then I have a partition behind my desk to kind of separate me from the rest of the house, because I don't have a big enough house to have a separate room just for an office. I have to share spaces in my house. So I'm in the corner of a room. I have my webcam in a position that is backed up to closet doors and maybe a shelf beside me, so that if they see that part of my office area that's not really off-putting. I wouldn't want to have a kitchen sink with a bunch of dirty dishes behind me. I wouldn't want to have a room with a bunch of kids' toys all over the floor behind me. I wouldn't want to have a bed behind me, and so on. You want to have some sort of area that's set up as a business area to just be more serious and look more official. And as far as my schedule is concerned, it was a lot harder in the beginning to follow a Monday through Friday schedule because I had other jobs, but I really try to keep a Monday through Friday 8-ish to 5-ish schedule during business hours. I do work for people in other states, in other time zones, but for the most part, I try to work within my time zone, normal business hour time frame. Really, that's more for my sanity than anything. And then it just makes it easier for me to have that separation, especially working from home. It can be difficult because your personal and your business work life get commingled quite a bit. So for me, it's easier for me to say, okay, Monday through Friday, these hours, I'm at my desk, I'm working on my business. And then after that time, I get up, I walk out of my office area and, have my personal family time, all of that. So for me, it just helps with the separation, having a schedule, doing the business hours and things like that, even though I am working from home. So hopefully this video helps. Hopefully you can get started on your own business. There's an enormous market out there for remote bookkeeping. So once you get started, I think you'll be able to do really well if you're good at it. And if you, I did this whole video assuming that you already had experience bookkeeping or doing accounting or an accounting degree or something to that effect. If you don't, then I would suggest getting a job for another bookkeeping company and maybe do that for a year or two, get some exposure, get some experience. Hopefully it's a company that trains you well, and then try your own business. I think it would be valuable to do it that way, but you can do what you want. It's your business, your life, and I hope you do well in it no matter what. Good luck.